Imagine this. Someone dies. They're really, truly dead. Then, poof, they're alive again. Sound crazy? Well, some people believe this happened, not just once, but many times in the Bible. The Bible is packed with amazing stories. Many are about miracles, like turning water into yummy wine, or a big sea splitting in half so people could walk through it. But some of these stories are super hard to believe, even for grown-ups. Close your eyes and allow yourself to rest as we explore the forgotten moments that might hold deeper secrets than we realize. This is today's bedtime story. Let's begin. In this video, we're going to look at the Bible's most head-scratching miracles. We'll ask if they really happened, or if they're more like tall tales. We'll see what different people think. Folks who believe everything in the Bible is true, and folks who want to see proof. Get ready to find out if these shocking stories are real or just fiction. Okay, get ready for a big one. Imagine lots of people, the Israelites, stuck between a giant army and a giant sea. Uh-oh. The Bible says Moses, their leader, held out his hand. Then, whoosh, the Red Sea split right down the middle. The water stood up like two huge walls, and everyone walked across on dry ground. Wow. But wait, some smart people say, hold on. Maybe it was just a super strong wind that blew the water away for a little while. They say maybe it wasn't even a super deep ocean, but a shallow, reedy marsh. That would make it easier for the wind to move the water around. Other people shake their heads and say, no way. The Bible says it happened so fast. Yikes! The Bible tells us the Israelites were just like this. They complained a lot. Then guess what? Every morning, tiny white, flaky stuff appeared on the ground, like frost. It tasted like honey cakes. They called it manna. This magic food kept them alive for many years. But some people wonder, was it really magic food or something natural from the desert? They point out that some desert plants make a sweet, sticky juice. Also, certain bugs in the desert make a sweet, edible stuff. Maybe the manna was just one of these natural things that the Israelites found? However, the Bible says the manna showed up every single day, except on the Sabbath, and there was always just enough for everyone. It also says it tasted like honey and looked like tiny seeds. That's a lot of special things for... Okay, imagine playing outside and it starts to get dark. You want to keep playing. Well, in the Bible, there's a story about a leader named Joshua. He was in a big battle and it was getting dark, but he needed more time to win. So the Bible says Joshua prayed to God, and get this, the sun stopped in the sky, and the moon too, for a whole day. The earth just froze. Now this one makes smart people scratch their heads a lot. If the sun really stopped, our whole earth would have to stop spinning. Everything would go flying. That sounds super impossible, right? So some people think maybe it wasn't the sun literally stopping. Maybe it was just a really long twilight, like when the sun stays out extra long. Or maybe the story means that God helped them win so fast it felt like the day was longer. But for many, the Bible means what it says. They believe God is so powerful, it was a giant sign of God's power. So did the sun really freeze in the sky? Or did it just feel like it? What do you think? This is the most talked about story in the whole Bible. Jesus dying on a cross, being put in a tomb, and then coming back to life. Imagine someone you know dies, and then 3 days later, they're just walking around and talking to people again. This is what the Bible says happened with Jesus. His friends found his tomb empty, and then he showed up to them many times. But some people say, no way, that can't be true. They have different ideas. Maybe Jesus wasn't really dead, just mostly dead, and then he woke up later. Or maybe his friends just imagined they saw him because they missed him so much. Another idea is that someone stole his body from the tomb and then made up the story that he came back to life. However, the Bible says Jesus really died. Soldiers made sure of it. His friends were super sad and scared at first, but after they saw him alive, they became brave and told everyone about him, even if it meant getting into big trouble. For Christians, this miracle is super important. If Jesus didn't come back to life, then their whole belief wouldn't make sense. It's the biggest sign for them that God is real and super powerful. So, was it a trick, a dream, or the greatest miracle of all time? There's a story about a man named Elijah. He was having a big showdown with some bad guys who worshipped a fake god. They each built an altar and put wood on it. Elijah said, "Let's see whose God sends fire to burn it up." The bad guys prayed all day, but nothing happened. Then Elijah prayed, and whoosh! Fire came down from the sky and burned up his wood, the stones, and even the water around it. Now, some smart people wonder if Elijah could have used a trick. Maybe there was natural gas hiding under the ground that caught fire. Or maybe he put something on the wood beforehand that would burn super fast. But the Bible makes it sound like a huge sudden blast of fire that ate everything, even the wet ground. It showed everyone that Elijah's God was the real deal. Then there's another amazing Elijah story. A lady's son got sick and died. She was so sad. Elijah prayed, stretched himself over the boy, and guess what? The boy started breathing again. He came back to life. Bringing someone back from the dead is super, super rare. Some might say it was just a deep sleep or a mistake, and the boy wasn't truly gone. But the Bible says he was dead. For believers, these stories show God's mighty power, even over fire and death. Was it a trick with fire, or God's big show of power? And did that boy really come back from the dead, or was it just a misunderstanding? Imagine a big party with people from all over the world, speaking different languages. Now imagine everyone suddenly understands each other, even if they're speaking in their own language. The Bible tells us something like this happened on a day called Pentecost. Jesus' friends were together, and suddenly they started talking in all sorts of languages they never learned. People from other countries heard them and understood everything perfectly. Now this is a tricky one. Some people believe that speaking in tongues today means talking in a special heavenly language that only God understands, or maybe a language that sounds like mumbling to others. They say it's a way for people to pray to God in a special way. But the Bible story says the people spoke in real languages that other people understood. So, was it always actual foreign languages? Or can it be more like a special, personal prayer language? Some folks think that what happens today is not the same as what happened back then. They say the original miracle was about showing everyone that God's message was for all people, no matter what language they spoke. Was it a miracle or a special gift for just one person to talk to God? Imagine you're in a boat on a big lake and it's stormy and windy. Suddenly, you see someone walking towards you on top of the water. No boat, no surfboard, just walking. This is what the Bible says Jesus did. His friends were super scared in their boat during a storm, and then they saw him walking right on the waves. He even told Peter to get out and walk on the water too. Now, science teachers would say, "No way, people can't walk on water. You'd just sink." They'd say it breaks all the rules of how the world works. So some people try to think of other ideas. Maybe Jesus was walking on a really shallow part of the lake, and it just looked like he was on the deep water because of fog or darkness. Or maybe his friends were so scared and tired that they just thought they saw him walking on water like a dream. But for many, this story shows how incredibly powerful Jesus is. It means he can do things that no one else can do, even control nature. It proved he was more than just a regular person. It shows his special power over everything. So, did Jesus really walk on top of the waves? Or was it just a trick of the light or a very strong imagination? So, we've talked about all these crazy Bible stories. The sea splitting, food falling from the sky, the sun stopping, and dead people coming back to life. Now, what do we do with them? Are they 100% true or just really good stories? For many people, these miracles are super important because they show how strong God is. They believe God can do anything, even things that break the rules of science. For them, faith means trusting that these things really happened exactly as the Bible says. They see the miracles as proof that God is real and caring. But then there are other people who ask lots of questions. Scientists, for example, if something seems to break those rules, they look for other ways it could have happened. Maybe a super strong wind did help move the sea. Or maybe there was a natural explanation for the manna food. This doesn't mean they don't believe in God, but they try to understand things in a different way. And some people think the stories are true in a different way. Maybe they're not meant to be like a science report, but more like a super important lesson. Like the story of the Red Sea teaches us that God helps his people, even if the sea didn't literally split in two big walls. It's about the deep meaning, not just the exact details. So how we see these miracles depends on what we believe, how we like to learn, and how we read old stories. Are they amazing true events? Or special ways to teach us big ideas about God? It's a big puzzle with lots of pieces. You're awesome for watching. Don't forget to watch the next video showing up on your screen.